Today's lesson is fire safety, fact versus fiction. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about fire safety. And there are some things that people believe that are true and some things that are not true in regard to fires and what you should do if you run into a situation where there is a fire, whether at home, work, or school, or in an office building, or in the department store, or whatever. You need to know what to do in order to save yourself and to save the lives of others. Now, last time we talked about the smell of smoke. Will it wake you up?
Right. We also talked about whether we should call the fire department immediately when we smell smoke. And it's important to know the truth behind these questions and to know what to do, because knowing what to do can mean the difference between life and death. It can save your life. If you don't have the proper information, it could mean that you won't survive a fire. And that's why it's so important to talk about this. And today we're going to be covering some other questions about fires. And these questions are also related to certain facts and fictions that we will clarify.
Okay, so the first question is about escaping or fleeing, getting away from that fire. What should I do if I can escape? Let's find out. Let's listen.
What should I do if I can escape? If you can escape, always avoid elevators and use the stairs. Elevator shafts can act like chimneys to channel smoke upward. And smoke is actually more dangerous than flames, as it can choke off oxygen supplies and release toxic gases. Furthermore, smoke rises, so it's best to crawl or squat as you escape, since staying low makes it both easier to breathe and see where you're going. Also, be sure to check any doorknob before opening a door. If a doorknob feels hot, there's probably a fire behind the door, and opening it should be avoided at all costs.
大家好，第一部分我们来介绍形容词 choke， 它的意思是阻塞、使窒息或使噎住。例如 The air was full of smoke and I felt like I was choking. 空气里都是烟，我觉得我快窒息了。又或者说 Stan ate his sandwich too quickly and almost choked. Stan 吃三明治时吃太快，差点噎住。下一个我们看到名词 oxygen， 意思是氧或氧气。例如 Whales need to come up to the surface of the water to breathe in oxygen. 鲸鱼需要浮出水面来吸入氧气。或是 Without oxygen, fires are unable to keep burning and will go out. 没有氧气，火就会无法继续燃烧而熄灭。再来我们看到副词 furthermore，它有此外或而且的意思。例如 Debbie is an excellent worker. Furthermore, she is a great mom. Debbie 是名优秀的员工，此外她也是一位很棒的妈妈。又或者说 Yoga can make you stronger and more flexible. Furthermore, it's great for stress relief. 瑜伽可以让你更强壮和柔软，此外它也对释放压力很有帮助。接下来我们看到动词 squat， 意思是蹲或蹲坐。例如 The hitchhiker squatted on the side of the road while waiting for a ride. 那位搭便车的人蹲在路边等车。或者 Kathy squatted down to check if there's anything under her car. Kathy 蹲下以检查是否有东西在她的车底。
So what should I do if I can escape a fire? If you can escape, always avoid elevators and use the stairs. That's something we've heard of or we've heard about many times. The first instinct might be to jump into the elevator because they'll take us downstairs quicker as we think. But actually, we should always try to take the stairs instead of the elevator.
That's right. So avoid elevators and use the stairs instead. And here's the reason. Elevator shafts can act like chimneys to channel smoke upward. And smoke is actually more dangerous than flames, as it can choke off oxygen supplies and release toxic gases. So this sentence tells us why it's not a good idea to take an elevator when there's a fire. We've got the elevator shaft. Okay, that's the space inside the building where an elevator goes up and down. And of course, they go from the bottom floor to the top floor in most buildings. So that's the elevator shaft. And it acts or functions like a chimney. A chimney, of course, is something you might have in your home if you have a fireplace in your home. I haven't really seen them too often here in Taiwan, but when I was a kid, we had a fireplace in the living room, and then the smoke would go outside up through the chimney. And of course, on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus would come down the chimney and put the presents under the tree. But in this particular case, elevator shafts function like chimneys, and they channel smoke upward.
Right. To channel something means to send something along a passage. And in this case, the passage is the elevator shaft. So the thing that is usually channeled when you use the verb channel is a gas or a liquid. But smoke can also be channeled through a shaft or up a shaft, and it's going upward. So upward here means moving or turning towards a higher position, going up.
And the opposite, of course, is downward. But of course, as you know, smoke goes upward because it's a higher temperature than the surrounding air. Warmer things rise and cooler things sink. So yes, indeed, smoke is more dangerous than the actual flames of the fire. Those are the orange parts of a fire that kind of flicker up into the air. Those are the flames. And yes, indeed, the smoke can choke off oxygen supplies. So here we've got the word choke. That's a verb. It can mean that you actually kill somebody by putting your hands around their neck. You can choke them to death. Of course, we don't want you to do that to anybody, but that's just an example here. In this particular case, it cuts off the oxygen supplies. Oxygen, of course, is a gas in the atmosphere, and we need oxygen to survive. If we can't breathe oxygen, we're going to be in big trouble.
So the verb choke, as Roger mentioned, has two meanings. One is literally to put your hands around somebody's neck and to prevent them from breathing, to cut off their oxygen supply. You can also say to choke off their oxygen supply. And oxygen, as Roger had also mentioned, is the gas that all living things need or all animals need in order to survive.
Right, and of course you need that oxygen, and the smoke can choke off the oxygen supplies. And also the smoke can release toxic gases. If something's toxic, it's poisonous. I should mention that the word toxic usually refers to chemicals or things like that that are made by people, like toxic waste, or in this case, toxic gases. Not always, but usually when I see the word toxic, I think about something that is man-made. Poisonous is a similar word. You could talk about poisonous plants, for example. And then another related word would be venomous, like a venomous snake or a venomous spider or something like that. But in this case, they're toxic gases that could cause other kinds of problems besides choking off your oxygen supplies.
Right. One word about the word toxic. Usually this word, as Roger mentioned, has the meaning of poisonous, but today toxic is also being used to describe people and environments. You could say that the company has a toxic work environment, meaning that the work environment is unfriendly or hurtful to somebody's mental health, or you could say that somebody is toxic, meaning that that person might hurt you or might cause you grief or anxiety. So that's a modern usage of the word toxic.
Furthermore, or in addition, also, smoke rises, so it's best to crawl or squat as you escape, since staying low makes it both easier to breathe and see where you're going. So here we've got the word furthermore, and when you're writing an essay or when you're talking and you're listing various things in some kind of order, you can use various words. Also, in addition to, or furthermore, they basically mean the same thing. It's important to use different words as you go on to each sentence.
Right. So that's a transition word. It has the meaning of in addition to. So furthermore, moreover, in addition to what we said before, smoke rises, so it's best to crawl or squat as you escape. Now, because smoke goes upward, it's best for us to keep towards the ground. So it's best to crawl instead of walk towards our escape route. And it's also a good idea to squat. So to squat is an action in which you bend your knees and you lower your body to the ground so that you're balancing on your feet. Squatting is also an exercise move. For instance, if you want to increase your cardio resistance or if you want to build leg muscles, you might want to do some squats. That's when you bend down on your knees and you keep your body low, and you can do 8 to 12 squats per day for better health.
Indeed. So yeah, you need to squat down. You need to lower your body by bending your legs as you escape, or you could crawl, just lie on the floor on your front side like an alligator does, and that will help you escape because smoke rises and therefore you should stay low. It's easier to breathe that way, and also you can see where you're going. Also, be sure to check any doorknob before opening a door. Now, of course, we have doors in our homes and our offices, and we open them by grabbing the doorknob or the latch. Some doors have latches, some have doorknobs. That's round, and you grab it with your fingers and you turn it usually to the right, and that will open the door. But you got to check the doorknob first. If the doorknob feels hot, there's probably a fire behind the door, and opening it should be avoided at all costs. So yeah, I guess lightly touch that doorknob so you don't burn your fingers in case it's hot, but you need to figure out if that doorknob is hot, and if it is, that means there's probably a fire behind the door.
Right, so you should avoid opening it at all costs. Here, the phrase at all costs is used to emphasize a point. So if something must be done at all costs, it just means that it must be done. There are no other alternatives.
Right, I could say the murderer must be stopped at all costs. We must do everything we can to arrest the murderer and put him behind bars. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. We've got the opposite question here. What if I can't escape? Let's find out about this.
What if I can't escape? If you find yourself trapped, it's usually safer to stay put than to go upstairs. Again, smoke rises, so there is less air available to breathe on higher floors. Instead of fleeing upward, block vents and spaces under doors to prevent smoke from entering the room you're in.
第二部分我们看到单字 vent， 它是名词，指的是通风口、排气口。例如 The vent above the stove can draw the smoke from the cooking oil outside. 炉子上方的通风口可以将油烟抽到外面。又或者说 Excess hot air is released through these vents. 多余的热空气是经由这些排气口排出。
So the last question, probably the most crucial question, what if I can't escape? Or in other words, what if I can't escape the fire? Well, if you find yourself trapped, it's usually safer to stay put than to go upstairs. Now, a lot of us might have the tendency, if we're trapped in a fire, to go upstairs because the fire might be happening below us and we might want to escape to the roof, to the last floor where we can go out into open air, but that's definitely a wrong move. What we should do instead is stay put. To stay put means to stay where you are, to not go anywhere.
Right, so don't go upstairs or downstairs for that matter. Stay put, stay where you are. And the next sentence here says, again, smoke rises, so there is less air available to breathe on higher floors. So be careful there. Yes, indeed, stay put, stay where you are, and don't go up because you'll go into those upper floors. And in those upper floors, there will be less air available for you to breathe, and you might suffocate.
Yes, instead of fleeing upward, block vents and spaces under doors to prevent smoke from entering the room you're in. So a vent is a hole or a space that allows air or gas to escape or fresh air to enter. So a lot of buildings have air vents. Those are the vents that allow cool air to travel or circulate from room to room in that building. So when there's a fire, what you would want to do is block the vents to prevent smoke from coming into where you are.
Right, so yeah, block everything off, make sure the smoke can't get to you, and just stay put and wait for the authorities to come, the firefighters to come and save you, and you'll probably be safer that way. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's wrap things up now in the third and final part.
Above all, it's essential to remember that fires can start fast and expand swiftly. So make sure you know how to take the safest action possible if you find yourself facing a fire.
第三部分我们看到单字 expand， 它是动词，指的是使扩展或扩大，使发展。例如 The company expanded its business into Europe. 该公司扩展业务到了欧洲。或是 We plan to expand our coffee shop by renting the store next door. 我们计划租下隔壁的店面来扩展我们的咖啡店。最后补充它的名词 expansion, E-X-P-A-N-S-I-O-N, expansion, 意思是扩充或扩张、扩展。例如The company recently announced its plans for expansion. 该公司最近宣布了它的扩展计划。或是 Scientists are studying the expansion of the universe. 科学家们正在研究宇宙的扩张。
Above all, it's essential to remember that fires can start fast and expand swiftly. So before we saw that if you can't escape from a fire, then there are certain things you should do, like block vents and block spaces under doors. And also, if you can't escape, you don't want to move upward, you want to stay where you are. Those are some things to keep in mind. But the most important thing, above all, it's essential to remember that fires can start fast and expand swiftly. So here, the phrase above all means most importantly. Most importantly, the final word, the most important thing that you have to remember. And it's essential to remember that fires can start fast. So essential means that it's very necessary. It's very necessary to remember that fires can start fast.
Yep, it's necessary, it's crucial, it's very basic. You need to remember this. Fires start fast and then they spread swiftly or they expand swiftly. To expand just means to increase in size. Like when you blow air into a balloon, the balloon expands, it gets bigger. And yes, fires can spread rather quickly or swiftly. So make sure you know how to take the safest action possible if you find yourself facing a fire. So these are very important things, and I think there are probably other considerations that you need to think about involving fires. And of course, fires aren't the only disaster that might befall us. We might run into hurricanes or earthquakes or even thick smog, as people in the eastern United States discovered a few months ago with wildfires burning in Canada. And yes, indeed, if you get caught in a wildfire, there are probably a whole new set of rules to consider when you want to escape from such a fire. I don't believe there is the problem of wildfires here in Taiwan. Have you heard of any wildfires here in good old Taiwan?
No, in Taiwan, no. I haven't heard of any cases of wildfires yet, and I hope that it doesn't happen soon or ever in Taiwan. But indeed, one of the most dangerous things about fires is that it expands very swiftly. So a small fire can turn into a big fire in a matter of seconds. And depending on the things that you have in your apartment, for instance, if you have a lot of things that are made of wood, made from wood, or if you have natural fiber, fabrics like curtains and stuff that can catch fire easily, those things will make fire spread even quicker. So you have to look at the context of the fire as well to determine how fast the fire can spread.
It's kind of surprising how many things are flammable in your home, things that can catch fire easily. So definitely make some precautions, take some precautions, make some preparations for those fires if they happen to you. Something else you probably need to consider is having a fire extinguisher in your home, and you also need to make sure it is functioning properly, just like your smoke detectors. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Let's turn things now over to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有一句有提到说 Be sure to check any doorknob before opening a door， 在打开门之前一定要检查门把。那这边要介绍的是 Be sure to 加动词的意思及用法。好，那么第一个呢是用祈使句的方式来表达， Be sure to 加原形动词是表达一定要做某事，务必要做某事。这个句型常常用来提醒别人，交代别人说一定要做到某件事情，就像课文里面的用法。例如 Please be sure to take your belongings with you when you leave， 离开时请务必将您的个人物品带走。那么第二个用法，我们可以用人或是事物加上 be sure to 加原形动词，这时候是表达说某人一定会怎么样，某事一定会发生。举例来说 Frank is sure to win the competition， Frank 一定会赢得那场比赛的。 The movie is sure to make you laugh， 那部电影一定会让你笑出来的。好，那么课文第二部分的最后一句写道，与其往上逃，不如将通风口与门下的缝隙封堵，以防止烟雾进入你所在的房间。好，那文中它是用 Instead of fleeing upward逗号点点点点点来表达与其往上逃不如怎么样怎么样。那这边我们来补充一下 instead of 它表示代替什么而不是什么什么，那它是片语介系词，后面要接名词或动名词，而这个名词或动名词就是被取代的人事物哦。举例来说 Kate ordered tea instead of coffee， Kate 点了茶而不是咖啡。好，那比较一下，如果是 instead则是表达作为代替，反而怎么样却怎么样，那常常用来表达某件事没做而是做了另一件事，或者是没有选择某事物而是选了另一个事物。这个 instead 是副词，可以摆在句首或是句尾，那么摆在句首的时候要用逗号跟句子隔开来。举例来说 Kate had too much coffee this morning，So she ordered tea instead. Kate 今天早上喝太多咖啡，所以她点了茶作为代替。好，那我们读到课文第三部分，他写说最重要的是必须要记住起火速度可能很快，并且迅速蔓延。那文中是用 above all 来表达最重要的是，那它是当副词，可以表达出最重要的是怎么样怎么样，或者是尤其是怎么样怎么样，意思就相当于 most importantly 或者是 especially。 举例来说 Ted is smart, hardworking and above all honest。 Ted 又聪明又努力，最重要的是他为人诚实。好，那以上就是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Choke. The smoke was so thick that it nearly made me choke. Oxygen. After the operation, the old man needed an oxygen tank to breathe. Toxic. The toxic chemical spill killed thousands of fish in the lake. Furthermore, the hotel has beautiful rooms, and furthermore, it provides great customer service to its guests. Squat. Laura squatted down to take a closer look at the ants marching across her kitchen floor. Essential. A balanced diet is essential for maintaining great health. Expand. The balloon expanded as it filled with gas.
Discussion starter starts now.
It's time now for our discussion starter. Here's the question. What fact or myth about fire safety were you most surprised or interested to learn, and why?
I was surprised to discover that you're not supposed to move upward in a fire situation, because that would be my first instinct. It would be to go up to the roof where I could have fresh air, but actually that might be more dangerous.
Well, I was surprised to discover that you should avoid elevators at all costs, because I thought elevators would be safe. You get in the elevator and the door closes, and then all it has to do is go down through the building and get you to safety on the first floor. Then you're okay, then nothing else is going to happen to you, but they tell you to avoid elevators and use the stairways instead. I thought the stairways would serve as a way for smoke to be channeled upward through the building, but I guess that's not the case. You learn something new every day.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.